Hello everyone, my name is Aimen. Welcome to my video in explaining my thoughts and guidelines on how to complete the string manipulation program. So this program has two parts, part 1 and part 2. For starters, we're going to go on completing part 1 before we start part 2. In this program, what it needs to be doing is to ask for the user for the first name and last name separately, output their full name alongside the length and the length of it, meaning the count of the letters inside the string, and then also output the full name in all uppercase, then in all lowercase. Let's begin. All right, let's start with a synopsis. First of all, application functions. To put it very simply, the first and last names will be inputted by the user separately. Second of all, application should output their full name with the character count next to it, and I will personally be including the space in between as well. Third, application should output the full name in all uppercase, and lastly, the application will output the full name in all lowercase. Let's move on to application guidelines. We do have some guidelines that we have to follow. The first name and last name must have the first letter capitalized. Second of all, variables must be written in camel case. Camel case being such as it is in this example, camel case and how I typed it. The first letter should be lowercase, but then any word after that has to be in capital, even if they are written with no spaces in between. All right, let's move on to pseudocode. First, we are going to be creating our variables, the first name, the last name, and the full name. And as you can see, I used camel case in these examples. Next, we will be asking the user for the first name and last name consecutively. And we will be intaking those inputs and put them into the first name, last name variables. Next, we will concatenate first name and last name, meaning that we will combine them using a string method, and we will have to ensure that there is a space in between. Next, we will output full name, and right next to it we will output the count of characters using the string library that is existing in Java. This count will also include the space in between the first and last name, so keep in mind that depending on how you feel, you may or may not want to include that number. Next, we will use the string method that will apply all uppercase on the entire string of full name, and then we will output that. The next part, we will use the same string method or similar string method that will apply all lowercase onto the string and output that as well. Let's move on to part 2 of the program. This program asks us to provide the user with the minimum and maximum hours required per week of studying. Then we will ask the user to tell us or to give us an input of how many hours they spent in 3 decimal places. What the application should do next is to output back that same number, but rounded into a single decimal place. Let's begin. Alright, let's start with the application functions. First, we're going to be storing 2 static variables representing the min and max amount of hours of studying. In our case, it will be 12 and 20 hours respectively. Next, we will be outputting the coded in range, because the user is not going to be the one inputting the 12 and 20 hour minimum and maximum amounts. It is going to be the programmer. We will be asking the user of the amount of time they spent studying this week to 3 decimal places. Then we will be utilizing the decimal format class to round the number to a single decimal place, then output that number. As for the application guidelines, there is no validation needed, and both parts 1 and 2 have to go inside one program. And let's start with pseudocode. First, we're going to be creating 2 static variables named min_hours and max_hours. And the reason we're not using camel case in this case, no pun intended, is that we have to differentiate and make static variables a lot more recognizable in code. Next, we will be creating a double variable named 3 decimal time, and this variable will contain the input from the user with the time to 3 decimal places. Next, we will write the prompt that then will be outputted to the user that includes the minimum and maximum times of study, and then ask the user for study time to 3 decimal places. Then we will be taking in that input and giving it to the 3 decimal time variable. The application then should use the method decimal format to convert the variable contents into a single decimal place. Then lastly, the application will output the return of the decimal format method, presenting to the user the number that he inputted with a single decimal place. And this has been the string manipulation program thoughts and guidelines. My name is Aimen. I'm happy that you listened to me this far. You have a good one.